go chasing the dawn, as I go chasing the dawn, as I go chasing the dawn. Another stroll in the shadows, one more familiar street. It seems that history is bound to repeat. That's how my destiny's drawn. Just when the story is shifting, turns out it's too good to last. Maybe I just can't escape from the past as I go chasing the dawn. Why don't you just release me and go your separate way? My heart has nothing.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Halsey Live. I am your host, Halsey English. We have Tom Luongo. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. The world is changing rapidly. And how are you going to adjust to it? That is the question. Tom, how are you doing? Let everyone know where they can find you.
I'm doing well, other than the fact that I double booked myself this morning, so we're a little late, and I very apologize for that. Otherwise, I'm okay. We got the Doctor Strangelove thing going on. We're good. I mean, as always, find me on Twitter, TFL1728. Do the Gold Goats and Guns thing at Patreon.com/Gold Goats and Guns. You guys all know the drill. All right, let's do the thing.
Let's get into this, man. So, what's your take on this whole Iran war thing? Because I got my own, and I've been trying to talk to as many people as possible, but it's almost like when it started, the whole fucking case of bullshit just opened up, and you could just see it for what it was. And it's like, I'm telling people, and they're going, no, that's too simple. Like, and it's like one of those things where you just want to shake people and be like, how are you not getting this? How are you not getting that we are on the fucking cusp right now? Like,
we're on the cusp of winning.
Yeah, like, this is everything. Britain's final defeat.
And it is. I still think Turkey is the final boss, but
they
ultimately, yeah. But yeah, no, I agree with you, Halsey. I know you've been monitoring my Twitter feed because you told me as such, and and if anybody's unclear of what my position is, it's been pretty obvious. Like everybody else in the world is crashing out, and I think they're crashing out because they know their grift is over. And it's very, very obvious that everybody's grift is over. And so the entire process is just kind of now playing itself out. When Trump did this on Friday, I was not surprised. Anybody who was trying to throw my words back at me that, nothing's going to happen here. I said quite explicitly, we're going to have a replay of Venezuela times five or six. I mean, it's going to be a different scenario. We're going to go in. We're going to do what we need to do. If it could have been Maduro over again, but Iran chose to fight as opposed to negotiate. Now, they've never negotiated. They always negotiated like Zelensky's negotiated. Why? Because they're backed up by the same fucking people.
Of course.
Right. I know you know all this, and I just want to make sure everybody else knows this. We're going to sit here and reiterate how we've been right for the last 8 fucking years. That's what we're doing this morning. This is a victory lap.
Seriously,
and like the only issue here is the tail risks to Trump. That's it.
If there's any.
If there are any, and I'm willing to entertain those because we're still in the middle of this. But this is the 12-day war all over again. The only thing we're seeing now is Iran lashing out at all of its neighbors.
Yep.
And exactly as you would expect them to lash out at all of their neighbors for what? Abandoning them? going out in a blaze of glory, trying to sow as much chaos as possible. Like, the truth of the matter is, folks, and a lot of people just don't want to accept it, but I consider Benjamin Netanyahu the dickhead who cried wolf a billion times.
So how's
And
that?
now,
I'm curious.
meaning he went out, Iran is 2 weeks away from a nuclear weapon, and he's been using that to move American political situation for 15 years. He's been doing this shit, and he used to do it cynically in order to get whatever he wanted out of the freaking neocons. Now he turns out to have been probably right. That at the last moment during all of these negotiations, when Trump puts our air and naval assets on the table, forces the Brits to finally show their hand by denying us Diego Garcia, by denying us their airspace, denying us this, denying us that. The French do the same thing, and everything starts crashing down. And all the battle lines that we've been talking about finally reveal themselves, and the whole friggin' Socrates shadow play in the back of the fucking cave. Someone shut off the damn projector, and here we are. Netanyahu finally turns out to go, and by the way, this time I'm right, because what did they do? Because all of that was crashing down. Then the IRGC was finally trying to cobble together a cheap freaking nuke that Trump was like, no, fuck you. That's it. We're done. Yep. And that's, I think, what happened. And I don't think it was very hard. And Witkoff gave us a story the other day when he was on Fox News. He said the Iranians walked in and tried to flex that, you're going to blackmail us because you've got enough material to make 11 nukes. Oh, really? That's your open negotiating stance? How about fuck you? We fly cap over your ass and we fly B-52s over you and bomb you back to the fucking Stone Age, you savage assholes.
You want to hear something interesting? You just brought up a point that I haven't connected yet, right? And it's interesting because people have always asked me why I don't like Bibi Netanyahu. Because for all intents and purposes, I should, right? Like, he's the type of guy that I should like. He talks a good game. He's run the country for a very long time successfully. He's persecuted by the same people that I hate. Like, for all intents and purposes, I should like Bibi Netanyahu. But I never did. And the reason why is in 2015, he was invited to give a speech to Congress, right? Remember when Obama wouldn't go because the Congress invited him and he said yes without clearing it through the White House? And he gave a speech about Iran. And over a dozen times he said during that speech, Iran is an existential threat to Israel, right? As far as I'm concerned, you don't use those terms unless the planes are in the air, right?
Exactly.
Like, you don't, you can, there's a lot of things you could say. You could say, if they get a nuclear bomb, it'll be an existential threat. If this happens, it'll be but when you say someone is an existential threat to my country, you're saying it because the planes are already in the air. Right? And I don't think it was that he was crying wolf, because a lot happened since that speech. There was Stuxnet, the virus that set them back, that was CIA and Mossad. There's been numerous assassinations of high-level nuclear people. There was the pretend nuclear deal. Like, there has been stuff that has set it back. So it probably wasn't that he was just crying wolf. But I think this time,
but I mean, but from the I hate to interrupt, but you're right. But let's put it this way: from the perception that we've seen, he's been crying wolf for this.
Sure.
And you have to, like, I'm trying to filter the people on the other side of the fence here, going, look, he said this a billion freaking times, and he's a meme at this point, right? And part of that is his own goddamn fault. Part of it is the British using him as a means by which to sow chaos and division. Remember, remember, folks, they're on both sides of the same fucking story here. Okay. Yep. And I can argue from I can argue, and this is where Halsey and I will disagree at times. Like, I still think that I still don't trust Netanyahu as far as I can throw it. I think that if situation was to his advantage, he would throw Trump under the bus, run right back to freaking London, and blow the entire freaking the region up. I think Trump is actually the guy holding Netanyahu's leash at this point and directing him where he wants him to go. That's my read on the situation.
Let me comment on that, because I don't necessarily think you're wrong. What I think is that Netanyahu is not the problem; he's the symptom. Okay, in that Israel needs world support when it does things, especially outside of its borders. I think that we always talk about this, that countries have interests. They don't have morals. They don't have values. They have interests. right? Israel's interest is in surviving.
Mm-hmm.
And if that means allying with Britain, it means allying with Britain like they did in the 50s. If it means allying with Trump, it means allying with Trump. If it means allying with Biden, it means allying with Biden. And I don't think that it's a value call. Like, I don't think you could sit there and go, well, morally, Trump has been so good to him, therefore he should only ally with Trump. He's going to do whatever he considers to be in the best interest of Israel, which most of the time will ally with Trump. But if it's going to hurt Israel, I think he's going to give it a second thought. Would he go back to the Brits if he thought it was in Israel's interest? For sure. There's no doubt about that. Like, to say that I think, like, no, I know. He definitely would. But I think that over the last year, especially, what you've seen is Trump has made a full-out assault on the city of London. Yes. And all of us, me and you, were more confident, but even we were like, you know, there's limits to this, or, you know, he could fail. The deep state is pretty strong, right? And you've seen it over and over and over again. It's funny because what was it? 3 months ago or 4 months ago, we did the first show with EM. And before that, I had never really heard of him. But then, like, now, like, I constantly talk to him because he's opened my eyes to a lot of, like, really important things.
Right. Yeah.
And one of them is that the city of London has its tentacles in almost everything. And the only way they operate now is by creating chaos. So when you see that the assets of the city of London, which are, when I'm saying city of London, I'm saying Democrats, I'm saying WEF, I'm saying Davos, I'm saying Qatar, I'm saying these are all one entity. They all work in lockstep with each other. They're all in control of each other. Like, this is city. This we're talking
the British Crown, the IMF, the World Bank, the BIS, the old European banking networks, the Rothschilds. All of these people are all in there. Some of them happen to be Jews. Some of them happen to be Dutch. Some of them happen to be Italian. Some of them happen to be British. We've got to remind everybody that we're not talking here about an ethnicity. This is,
and I think I always found it funny when people start with the ethnic thing. It's they're Jewish, they're Catholic.
That's the body swerve. Like, that's the intelligence operation. I'm sorry, that's the intelligence operation. Move it to that, then turn it into a religious thing, and then frame it that way, and then leave it, and then have everybody fighting all about that. When what you're fighting is the system of how money moves around the world and how that buys political, military, economic, terror, interest, all of those things. That's the problem. It's the system, and City of London is a system, and everybody's got their hands in it, including the Chinese, including the Russians, including the Iranians, including the Azeris, including the fucking Armenians and the Turks and the Jews and the Jordanians and the Saudis and the Americans and the this, and everybody's involved here at certain level. Because everybody has organized crime. Everybody has corrupt politicians. Everybody has financiers and banks and this and that and everything else. And those are the people that are part of the process. So when we watch these things occur, when we watch Trump attack that system, that's what we mean when we say attacking City of London. And it's not a body swerve away from, oh, the Jews run the world. That's just a fucking low energy take given to you by the City of London in order to get you inflamed and get you and turn you into a fucking public retard. I got news for you. Everybody doing that now that Trump and Israel are going to roll Iran in flour and go for the wet spot, or already have gone for the wet spot, I got news for you, folks. All of you are crashing out this morning because you're all going to get deplatformed. Because because we're going to go right back to 10/6/2023.
Yep.
And you fell for it hook, line, and sinker. And what you're pissed about this morning is that you can't actually, because you didn't take a rational position on the situation between Iran, Israel, the Middle East, Trump, the City of London, and everything else. What you're going to find out now is that now the Jews are really going to get their revenge against you.
I love that.
When you think about it, exactly, because remember what we've been talking about for the last 2.5 years. I said, I mean, I was sitting there on that side of the fence previously, mostly kind of keeping my freaking mouth shut because I'm not stupid. Like, I got a fucking family to feed. That was on 10/6. On 10/8, all of a sudden it was okay to start bitching about the Jews. I'm like, whoa, that's a little bit too much whiplash for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started looking at it going, oh, shit, maybe I was gaslit by morons into believing something that wasn't true. That's the truth, folks. That's my conversion. If you want to understand what changed was that I finally admitted to myself that I had been gaslit by morons, mostly Iranians, by the way, and a bunch of Russians as well, who were blowing smoke up everybody's fucking asses. Now, they did so for their own reasons. They have their own existential threats. They have their own problems. Biden's in the fucking White House. Like, there's all this shit. I don't blame them for it, but I fell for it. And that's the way you have to look at it.
You have to also look at
you
what
all
is
fall
the
for it
pattern.
now because you had these pet theories and you need to lash out. And that was, I told everybody, sorry, your Jew-spurging is between you and your fucking therapist or the man in the mirror. Make your point. I don't care. What's important now is that you understand you're being used.
Just understand the pattern. What is it that City of London does when it looks like they're about to be exposed? They say release the third world. Right? Yes. And that's exactly what they did, especially to Twitter, because Twitter opened itself up to it. And most companies didn't. Like, remember back when we were youngins and there was hardcore censorship across all social media?
Yeah.
Have most people have noticed by now? Do you remember it was more fun when there was mass censorship? Because it wasn't just that, like, if you'll notice, all the celebrities from Twitter are basically gone. All the politicians are gone. It's basically a third world app at this point. Like, it's third worldist, and people upset that the third world is there.
It's a bunch of idiots running around. They're AI, they're chat bots and everything else. And it's I mean, well, that's not completely true. I still chat with. I have a few minor celebrities that I chat with on Twitter, and I have a good time with, and they're good people. But for the most part, it's now a news organization, and but you're correct. Everybody's, the fun is gone, and all that's left is, everybody now AI tweeting. Like, in a week, everybody, I'm going to tell you, by the way, pro tip, anybody who wants to be a Twitter influencer, don't use AI to write your post for you. Okay? Just don't do it. Because within a week, I'm telling you, I'm already tuning people out. People that I like, people who have good information, but if they let AI write their long tweets for them, it sounds like ass, and AI is a shitty writer. If you have Grok write your shit for you, it will come out. It will get an A in essay writing class, in your college essay writing class, but it will still suck because it doesn't have a voice. It has a process. It's just a language model, folks, and there's nothing you can do about it. But that's an aside. But you're correct.
But it goes further to the third world on us. Expression that we all know, but we never take seriously. If you're not paying for the service, you're not the customer. You're the product. Right, that is so true on Twitter times 100. You're the product. You're what gets Elon Musk the money to pay back the massive loans he took to pay off Twitter, to get the engagement he needs, to show that it's worth it, to get the information that Grok needs in order to power AI. In order to do that, he needs engagement. And he doesn't care if it's coming from the third world. He doesn't care if it's coming from bots. All the other platforms have figured out how to get these bot farms pretty much out. Like occasionally they get through, but then they get caught and just immediately gotten rid of.
I will notice now, as my channel, as my Twitter channel, we're on the side now. My Twitter channel has now grown. I can tell you that they have really improved a lot of the really shitty bots, right? I'm no longer getting all the impersonators. They're not showing up every other day with the, go join my Telegram channel so I can steal your fucking money. Shut the fuck up, poo. Like, I'm over it, right? Okay, so that's been better. It's a process, but yes, you are correct that in order for Musk to actually pay for Twitter, because of the exorbitant price he had to pay for Twitter, which was meant as a poison pill to ensure that he couldn't actually use Twitter. Because Twitter wasn't worth $44 billion; it was worth $5 billion.
If that.
Right. I mean, let's in Biden terms, $5 billion would have been. I mean, Twitter's like a small cap at that point, because remember, a $5 billion company is barely a mid cap anymore, right?
Right.
So just let's call it that. It's still a small cap company. Okay. $44 billion, but when you had to pay real money for it, and he had to actually pay that money for it, he couldn't just like leverage, rehypothecate some fucking office building in on the Lower East Side 75 times through City of London and raise the $44 billion, which is what they normally do.
Well, Twitter, though, is the example of what I said before, that countries, and it applies to corporations as well, they don't have morals, they don't have values, they have interests. Okay. Yes. And when you try to apply morals and values, what winds up happening is it destroys your interests. And you've seen it happen over and over again, because when Twitter was like the most censored platform on earth, you saw all these alternatives spring up, and every single one of them said, we're going to be the free speech platform. And every one of them became a third world shithole populated with Nazis, Muslims, and fucking the rest of the third world. And they all just failed, like Gab and all of them. They just went right down the tubes, because the principle of free speech goes against the interests of a company. A company with like Twitter, which is about making money, can't be having people calling people the N-word just because they disagree. Even though I find it funny sometimes, like it doesn't matter what I find funny. I'm paying what, $30 a month for my Twitter Pro account. Like my contribution to Twitter is very minimal at best.
It's funny, like, and this is the funny part about it. People, and I see the same thing from patrons after a while. I'm like, your $4 a month does not get you the right to call me a Nazi or a Jewish shill or part of the $7,000 club, whatever you want. Your money spends up until the point where I turn around and go, that's enough of you, goodbye, and then you're out. I have interests, and I'm not going to stand here and I'm not going to sit here and apologize for them. It's just, and anybody, and you can always tell the people that, because I have this now, you have this level of service where you can tell the intelligence assets, especially London, are so desperate. They're now paying to become members of people's intentional communities, in order to undermine them from within. And they think that gives them the shield, because, oh my God, I need your $4. Like, I news for you, dude. I don't need your $4. Okay. So, and so this is the problem with their model. They've always tried to tether people to these choke points, and the big choke point, and why Halsey and I'm going to take it right back to Iran and Trump, why Trump rolled them all in flour and went for the wet spot over Iran, was because the biggest choke point in the world was shipping insurance.
Oh my God, I was so waiting to get it in there, because no one is talking about it, or if they are, they're missing the point. They're missing how astronomically huge this is. And the second when I saw Trump mention it, when he said, I've instructed the U.S. government to provide shipping insurance at a good price and naval escort to ships in the Persian Gulf, I said, that motherfucker, he's doing it. Holy shit.
I was 18 hours ahead of you, because on Twitter, because on Twitter, somebody, John Conrad was talking about, I went after that guy, Shalama Parara,
whatever.
Salamanore, that fucking AI bot. That guy, that Sri Lankan supposedly living in Australia, who's clearly an MI6 asset. Okay. Another poo that looks like an MI6 asset. And he was talking about how, did you see this statement from Oman about how about what happened? Iran attacked everybody except Oman, because Oman controls the other side of the straits, and Oman made the statement that no one is allowed to violate international law to do their thing, or some stupid shit like that. And I'm like, oh, there's the playbook. Here's the playbook coming in 3 days. They think they're going to be able to go to the UN, use all the international organizations to call Trump to make Trump make Trump look like a tyrant, and that he's on his own, he's isolated. It was all over Twitter that, oh my God, the United States has now isolated themselves. I saw all this shit, and then the point was, and I said, and they're going to go for, and then they're going to blame him for the Strait of Hormuz. And I said flat out that morning, it was a Saturday morning, I said, what they're going to do next is they're going to threaten to close the straits, but Iran can't close the straits, because it was in that guy's tweet. He's like, we're going to go from this to Iran's going to close the straits and oil's going to go to $300 a barrel. And I'm like, fuck no. Oil is not going to go to $300 a barrel because Iran can't close the straits. Okay. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen, because we live in the matrix, is that Lloyd's of London, they're going to cancel all the shipping insurance and ground all the boats, and then all their bots are going to show us the shipping transponder maps of the straits and say, look, all the ships are on one side and the strait is closed. No, the strait's not closed. They're just not willing to cross the line of death.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so what's really funny about this is that while that was happening, that was on like Saturday or Sunday or whatever the hell it was. By Tuesday, I go on RT. Now, RT calls me on like Friday afternoon. I'm busy about all sorts of things. And I'm like, I don't have time. I'm sorry, but let's, next week maybe if you want. So this is RT International. This isn't like RT fucking, Serbia or some shit. This is RT International. I don't go on there all that often. But it was interesting. The story is fascinating because we set it up for Tuesday at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. my time. So it's 2 p.m. Central time, 3 o'clock Eastern. And at like 1 o'clock, that's when Trump dropped the tweet. That's when Trump dropped the tweet. And Zero Hedge had popped the tweet earlier saying rumors are that Trump's going to do blah. And I'm like, I go on RT and they tee me up to talk about how oil is going to go to $200 a barrel and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, it's not. They're not closing the straits. Mm-hmm. This is all an attack on City of London. And I immediately went right at it. And I was off the air in 5 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. Now, they did do a whole bunch of follow-up questions later where I was able to fit all that in and fit all the good stuff in. A lot of the stuff we've already talked about and whatnot. And I'm sure that they'll play that on other segments later on. But the interesting part about it was, I did not give them what they wanted. And I told them, I said, oil's not going to. So I said, Trump just tweeted out that he's going to provide shipping insurance to everybody and a Navy escort, and oil dropped $4 a barrel in like an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. So this war's over. Iran can't. So
I saw it when I started seeing the reports.
They can't. All they can do is their typical fucking Persian. And then they're going to fire some rockets at a couple of people and make it look like they still have power and mostly they're going to lash out at their former allies.
Mm-hmm. I see. I saw when I saw the report that the Iranian Navy had basically been destroyed.
Yeah.
Right. That was my first thought. I thought, oh my God, he's doing it. Like in addition to, because there's no threat to the U.S. carriers from the Iranian Navy. The size guns they have on those boats, if they shot them at a fucking aircraft carrier, it would just bounce off. You know what I'm saying? Like they were no threat, and he took them out.
Remember all the war game agitprop we used to hear about? Oh, the fast attack boats will slam into the sides of the Abraham Lincoln and knock it down, and all that. Remember all that bullshit coming out of how many guys that I call ages ago were somebody's intelligence asset. Mm-hmm. I mean, dude, I've been thinking Jim Rickards is a fucking spook for 14 years. And what have I always said? Jim's a spook. I read him to find out what they want us to know.
Right.
And I've been doing this since before you and I were friends. That was the first one I ever figured out. Oh, by the way, the other one on the other side of the coin is Chris Whalen. Here's one for you. Anybody in the audience who has been doing this for as long as I have, you'll know the words King World News, Eric King, the old podcast. Go back and look at every single one of his guests now that were supposedly the best at this and the expert here and this and I know people who got him his start and got him a lot of his guests. So some of his guests were good, but all of the geopolitical guests all turn out to be City of London assets. Every goddamn one of them. Nigel Farage, Chris Whalen, Jim Rickards, this one, that one. The only one you could not say that about was Jim Sinclair, because Jim Sinclair at that point had fuck you money and was giving away the secrets to everyone and doing what we're doing now, which was the first stage of this, which is to tell everybody how they run this, how they do this shit.
Yep.
And Jim left the scene with his conscience clear after being, an amoral trader for trader, not trader, for decades. But he walked off the scene letting everybody know there are second acts in American life. He's one of them. Donald Trump is another.
Also, did you notice Spain said they weren't going to let us use Spain said they weren't going to let us use our bases, And Trump didn't fuck around. He canceled trade with Spain, and they changed their mind in like 15 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like,
same thing to the fuck. What did he do to Keir Starmer? Starmer says, "Oh, I'm going to sell the Chagos Islands back to Mauritius," and Trump's like, "Yeah, the fuck you are." That's nice. Well, we have a contract and we have a thing, and that's nice, Limey. Fuck off. You're not doing it.
Yep.
We can't. We have the thing, and that's nice. We'll kill your king.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Like how about we drop the C-17s in with the snake eaters, like we did with Maduro, except this time they got a 10 Downing Street. I'm getting the papers over here. Yeah, I know you are.
Mm-hmm. But now seeing the Middle East, which is walking away from Europe, which it has been for a while.
Oh God,
but now
they've been walking away from Europe for 2 years now, 3 years.
Right, but now you're seeing the changes that are, and you're right. Turkey is leave Turkey out of this, right? But you know what
that's another conversation for another day.
But you know what you are seeing with Turkey, which I found interesting. Iran has now launched a bunch of missiles at Turkey. They were all intercepted, but they launched them. That should trigger Article 5, and no one's even discussing it. It hasn't been mentioned. Not a single European country has said, hey, wait a minute, that's an Article 5 violation. Nothing. Right. They have just kept their mouth shut, which means NATO this whole time has been a paper tiger. And the whole point about Europe being in this alliance, now you're seeing all of a sudden Russia is ready to come to the table. They want to talk peace.
Russia's ready to come to the table. Russia's willing to come to the table because Russia holds the whip hand, which is what I told RT in the secondary comments, which was, who's the big winner in all this?
Yep.
The Russians. Why? Because Ursula von der Leyen just came out an hour ago and said we need to open up the pipeline. Viktor Orban is literally saying, I will go to war with the tracksuit midget if he doesn't open up the Druzhba pipeline.
Yep.
And they're so desperately trying to scuttle the friggin' Hungarian elections, thinking they're still playing these friggin' they still think they can play these games. And I'm telling you right now, if they were to steal the Hungarian elections away from Viktor Orban, Trump will drop 4 C-17s into fucking Budapest and go, no, I have the receipts. We know you stole Romania. We don't care. It's over.
There was also a comment by Trump that I found so interesting, and everybody else was like, I think he was just speaking. I was like, no, he meant this. They asked him about the fact that China gets 45% of its oil from Iran, right? And he said, I wouldn't worry about that. Besides, they have other contracts, right? He was talking about Venezuela.
I know.
He was basically saying, China, don't worry about it. We'll honor the contracts. You still need oil. We'll give you oil.
Absolutely.
Because how many times have I said this? And it drives right-wingers crazy when I say this. China's not our enemy. China's our competitor. Yes. And Trump sees that. He sees that China, look, do they do fucked up things to us? Of course they do. That's what competitors do. And, you know what I'm saying? You don't think that fucking Amazon and Walmart undermine each other every 15 minutes? Of course they do.
Well, you know? And again, and when America was under the thumb of the British and European globalists, you had to act defensively that way. That's what BRICS was. BRICS was nothing more than a response to Biden winning the election or being the election getting stolen or Biden being selected, the Biden junta. That's what BRICS was. It was a hedge. It was a defensive maneuver. You dig trenches when you're worried about your guy coming, your enemy on the other side of the border coming over with some dudes. Like, that's what you do. It doesn't make it real. It doesn't make it operative. It doesn't make it eternal. Okay, and this is what so many of the pro-Russian, or anti-Atlanticist, anti-U.S. empire crowd misses. That when the board state changes, when one group decides to act in its own interests, I warned everybody. I warned Bitcoiners. I warned the Duran. I warned everyone. I said, when the United States starts acting in its own interest, all of your pet theories are going to be wrong. Why?
100%.
Because all of these things operated were ascendant during a time when the United States was not defending itself. Bitcoin was going to $1 million as long as the United States fought the globalists. It was the natural antipode, and they were suppressing the price of gold. Now gold's a competitor to Bitcoin. Now we can choose between both assets. And when the only way Bitcoin goes to 1 million now is when the United States decides it's ready to start balancing its books, as you and I discussed the last time
Which is
we
going to
were
be
on together.
sick. Which is going to be sick.
Dude, I get it. I know. I understand. So to finish the talk here, to finish the point, when you work with a 2015 or 2020 framework, if you go back to Trump 1.0 and just think he's just another fucking neocon or this or that or anything else, if you were not willing to admit the forces they marshaled to try and stop him in his first term as evidence of he was attempting to make a bigger change, that's on you. You suck, and you should give back all your Patreon money. And I'm dead serious when I say that.
I know.
If you had a goddamn shred of decency in your soul, you would do so. Moreover, let's talk about the other side of that, which is you have those people over there telling everybody, and they're all, in effect, carrying the water for British assets at this point. Think about Alistair Crook. Think about Judge Napolitano and his crew. Think about all of that, right? Think about the Libertarians, or the Libertarians, as I like to call them now. Think about all those guys over there refusing to accept any concept of City of London or the British being the problem. What did they do? What they did was they programmed everybody, rightfully, they were right about this, that Russia's not the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
But what does that do? That takes a whole bunch of conservatives and libertarians, jacks them out of the, oh my God, the Reds are under our beds, right? To the Gen Xers who were born, who still remember having to do air raid drills in 6th fucking grade, and the boomers and everybody else who are still hanging on, and they're shifting away from that. But where do they're going to go somewhere, and you have to have a vessel to catch them. This is the way you have to think if you're going to be thinking like MI6. And what did they do? They stood up Steve Bannon. The whole Steve Bannon wing of MAGA, the whole true MAGA, America's true voice, all this bullshit, all the people in that orbit, every goddamn one of them was there to say, no, Russia's not the problem. China is. We got to go to war with China. We have to go to war with China tomorrow. What's Trump doing? And everything he does and everything Trump does that doesn't advance that agenda, not true MAGA. Defined as not true MAGA. When that happens, you're being moved by an intelligence op, because only intelligence operations will do that, will substitute one for the other by going, if it's not Russia who's the enemy, it must be China. And you're not allowed to have a conversation about anything else.
Yep. So I have two things
that
I think you'll find interesting.
If you hate Israel because of what they've done in Gaza, then you have to be on Iran's side. Well, if you're not on Iran's side, that means you must be okay with Israel slaughtering Palestinians, and it's the same thing with the Epstein files. Everything. It's always this stupid false dyad,
third worldist,
reductionist, monolithic bullshit. And it needs
to always use the term third worldist. That's what it is. It is third world Dugan fucking Slavic ape man dribble. That's what it is. It's just trash. But I've had two conversations.
Watching Dugan crash out is hilarious.
It's amazing. And watching him come out for Tucker has been amazing. Yeah. It is so awesome. But I've had two conversations I wanted to tell you about. One of them, we were talking about conservatives, right? And my friend was saying, he's like, conservatives are so cooked. Like, they're not even willing to stand up against the Tuckers and the Candaces. They're not doing this. And I said, that's because conservatives are the same thing as libertarians. They believe in theory, but they don't really realize that theory requires bravery, right? You can be libertarian if you're willing to defend your house with guns. If you're not, it's all just bullshit in theory, because it's just talk. And if you're not willing to get up and fight and do what's necessary to enforce your theories, you will fail every single time, because other people will. You know what I'm saying? And that's just, and you can't just say, well, under libertarianism, we have the
I don't give a fuck, dude. At the end of the day, I've always looked at, I got so deep into the whole libertarian mindset, just to remind everybody about this, that I remember sitting there thinking, because I'm sitting there in North Florida, I get this little house, I rarely leave it, and I got 13 and a half acres. And every once in a while I get really angry because some kids go out on my back 5 and, drink beer and leave the shit on my property. I'm like, squatting on my property for a couple of hours. I'm like, now imagine this is El Salvador or, all the Costa Rica, where the squatting laws, that guy would then be able to claim my property because he squatted on it and did something with it.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So now I remember thinking about all that stuff and going, yeah, well, if I can't defend that land, what is my paper claim written down in some dusty book up in the